I worked in the beauty industry for over a decade. The thing that got me the most, it's never about the lipstick. It's about what the lipstick does to that person and how they feel about themselves. It's not about, oh, she looks good in red lipstick. It's no, she feels good in red lipstick. And that's the difference. It's that spirit makeover that happens when someone's outsides connect back to their insides. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes us to present outside to start to feel better on the inside.
I never dreamed that I would meet some of the people I have met along the way in doing this show. And it's because I have been making connections and networking. It is very interesting the way that one connection with one person can lead you to other connections with other people. This is a big part of how I get really great guests on my podcast. It's about networking and making connections and forming relationships. And that's why my partner, Renee V, and I have decided to put on an amazing day of networking and exposure to thought leaders in the personal and professional development industry. We're holding the Rich Thinking Conference September 6th in Philadelphia, PA. It's a whole day event that includes breakfast, lunch, and just unbelievable access to people who you never dreamed that you would be up close and personal with. You'll be able to talk to, connect, shake hands, get together, make plans, make connections with people who can help you to get where you want to go in life. This is the way it's done. It is no nonsense. It's a lot of people will just BS you and not give you the real deal about how they have gotten success in their lives. And I'm telling you, this is one of the things you need to do. You need to network. You need to get into the right rooms. You need to take the time, make the investment in networking events, live events, in person. It's amazing. It's the way to go. And we would love to see you in this room, give you a big hug, and let you know that you are doing something amazing for yourself. You can get more information by going to richthinking.org. We still have some seats available as of the publishing of this episode. And so get in there now because they're going fast. The date is coming up. All right, guys, take my word for it. I am no gatekeeper. I want everybody to win. And this is how you win, by getting in the right rooms. I've created that room for you, I'm not getting anything out of this other than the joy, the satisfaction, and to be quite honest, the connections I'm going to make by being there. It's crazy. We would love to see you there. You can get your tickets at richthinking.org or just contact me and I'll hook you up with the tickets. And now on to this great episode of Blessings. Welcome back to Blessings, my friends. The vibe is super high here today because I have an extraordinary woman with me. I stumbled upon her socials where she is making up for lost time. Love that handle. And I loved her energy so much because she's me and she's you. And she's about confidence and she's age positive and she's all about trusting your most colorful, outspoken inner voice. Jen Polt found herself at a crossroads after an unexpected end to her marriage, and she made the decision also to leave a successful corporate career to break out on her own as an educator, creator, and coach. She is also a beauty and style expert as well, which I love because I am also a fashion girl. And I just love watching her reels because they made me feel like $1 million after watching them, made me feel like validated. And I was so inspired that I asked her to come on out of the blue as a stranger, and she agreed to have a conversation with me. So here she is. Welcome, Jen Polt, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. I want to start out by asking you to do something. Picture yourself as a little girl. Whatever age comes up for you is appropriate. It's where you're supposed to be. And put yourself in her shoes and think about how your life has turned out differently from what she expected.
God, that's a great question. I think I've always been a really optimistic person. I was raised by two people who were very great about seeing the other side of the coin. I can't tell you how many times I heard one of my parents say, yes, that did happen, but at least X. There was always that feeling of, okay, yes, a bad thing has happened, but it could have been worse. It could have been this or that. And so I've always been a very optimistic person, and I've always been a romantic. And I have led a life of just putting myself out there and feeling very charmed in the way I grew up, and a kind of a charmed life, charmed childhood. I had a very healthy childhood and all of those things. I think the way it's turned out differently is that with a romantic's heart and a romantic's notion, we sometimes get wrapped up in the idea of everything's just going to work out perfectly. And if someone told me at 52 that I would be 2 marriages down and back at it again, trying to find love in my life on top of everything else I did in the same damn year, I think I would have been really surprised by that. I'm the child of 2 people who were married for 57 years. I thought I had all the tools in my toolbox to create a great relationship, and I have picked the wrong people over time. So I think she was very optimistic and hopeful about what love and getting married and having that little fairy tale thing. And I still believe that's out there for me, but I don't think I expected to struggle to find it as I have.
Wow. I love that answer.
Yeah.
Like I said in the introduction, you're me. I can relate to that very strongly. Wow. It's interesting when we think about that whole fairy tale life that we have as a child. And I too had parents who were, my mother passed away very young, unfortunately, but my parents were married for a long time, and they would have still been married today, if my mom hadn't gone so quickly. But it's interesting how the children of stability and that kind of traditional life can have a different path. Why do you think that happens?
God, these are great questions. I think my experience has been, I think when you grow up in healthy environments and healthy, loving environments, you become very empathetic and empathic. And I think you approach relationships with a understanding and an empathy for what someone else has gone through, their struggle to get to where they are now, how the things that happen to them can affect how they walk in a relationship. And I think those pieces, and I read this recently and it really resonated with me, that empaths usually struggle in relationships because what we wind up doing is we wind up seeing all the good in someone else, and we're trying to shine a light on those things for them. And while we are shining the light on them, we're taking it away from ourselves. And we're not illuminating the things that we actually need in order to be able to be happy in a relationship. And I found that I repeated that pattern over and over again. I chose people who were worthy of love, absolutely, but who had not seen that their histories were showing up and sabotaging some things in their present and in their relationship with me. And in my quest to understand and give empathy and bring all those loving tools to the table, I sacrificed a lot of the things that were important for me to feel safe and secure in a relationship. So it was this very interesting revelation that took me 52 years to get to, and a second marriage after 13 years of being with someone, and finally having that aha moment of, that's what's been going on. I have been turning that light toward them, and I kept forgetting that I also needed to shine some on myself. So I think it does. It shows up that way. We come with a lot of tools. Yes, we come with a lot of logical understandings about love and how it works, but we also can get into that mode of trying to save someone else and neglecting our core needs in the process.
That is so true. And I saw your reel about that. You made a reel about that. And I can't tell you how resonating that was, because I do exactly the same thing. And that's a question I have for you, but I have it for later, but I'm going to ask it now.
Yeah.
Because it fits. Because I think as empaths, we see things in people that they cannot see in themselves. So we see all of the potential. And because we're optimists and probably growth-minded people, and maybe that comes from our upbringing, but also I think it's inherent, something that's natural in some way. But when you have such empathy and you can see the potential, some people only see what's on the surface. We see much deeper than that, I think, as empaths. And I know there are a lot of empaths who are listening to this right now. And this plays out not only in romantic relationships, but also in friendships. I actually have had this happen in friendships where there have been flaws. And I know people have had these flaws. I know things they've done to other people, things they say about other people, but for whatever reason, we don't think they're going to do those things to us or say those things to us.
Right.
And then they do. And then we end up getting devastated.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. How can we guard against that?
I think it is. It is that challenge of, and I think that's the thing. As I walk through this thing now, single, and I've been dating and trying to reconnect with new people, I think that's the thing that I am more keenly looking, got the ear out for is, okay, where are you in your healing journey? Because we're all healing. To expect someone to show up healed is impossible. We're all healing. And some of that healing doesn't even happen until you're in a really loving relationship with someone and a really profound connection with someone where you feel safety to let some of that stuff out and to the surface and have somebody go, you know what, that's okay. And we'll take that and that's okay. And you could still be loved through those things. But I think it's valuing not only the work that you've done on yourself, but also making sure that you're showing up to the table and receiving people and connecting with people who have also done the same work. And so I think there have been many instances where I have said, ooh, you're doing it again. You're going down that road with someone who hasn't done their work. And I sometimes get wrapped up in the, hey, it's so wonderful to have you in my life. And you're I'm so grateful and the way you've shown up and this and that. And I'm like, yep. But then I went, aha, but no, because you're not changing your behavior to show up in the same way so that I feel the same thing about you. And that's the difference. I think a lot of times I was taken with the compliments of what I thought were really great character traits inherently in my heart. And I was like, thank you. It feels so nice to be appreciated. But then I would also forget that, okay, but they don't feel inclined to work harder to be that for me. And so now I'm looking for more reciprocity. And before, I think I was just in that mode of, I will just give of my heart and that they will just naturally fall in love with me because they'll see how giving and loving I am. But I'm more aware of that. Okay, are they meeting me halfway? Are they meeting me where I am now?
Yes, I think that's great advice because we need to make sure that we are not always only looking deep and taking what's at the surface at face value, because it is important in order to protect yourself to see what's this person actually showing me right now. And maybe they're not at my level yet of awareness, of spiritual awareness.
For sure.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh my gosh. All right. Thank you. Wow. We went deep right away, didn't we?
We did.
I don't fool around.
I'm into it. I'm like, wow, we're going for it.
I know. I did see that you recently went back to your hometown to host an event.
I did.
What was that like for you? And where was that?
So it was in northern New Jersey. I grew up just outside of New York City in Bergen County in New Jersey. And I'm a proud Jersey girl, born and raised. And I ride hard for my home state. And it was a couple women who have been following me for a while, and they do a whole podcast and a website around divorce resources for women. And when they contacted me, they weren't even aware that I was going through a divorce at the same time. They had just contacted me they saw my content, they liked what I had to say, and they wanted to connect. And then this event was happening, and it just happened to be in the town, basically next door to where I grew up. And I was like, this is amazing. I would love to do this event. This would be fantastic. For me, I left my hometown when I was 23. I left just a year outside of college and moved away for 10 years and then moved back to New Jersey, but moved to South Jersey. And now I'm in the DC area. And it's interesting. When I left and I would come back for visits, it was amazing to me how many people had never left, that they either stayed in our hometown or at least in our home county and never really went. And I was always grateful that I took the chance to go and experience other things. And I think it was important for me, for my own growth, because being so close to my folks, I was sheltered. I think I had a really sheltered life, and it was important for me to kick out on my own and try some new things. But I'm always happy to go back home and see old friends and reconnect. And I have friendships that have been since kindergarten, people that of course, you lose track of for 20 years. You find each other on social media, you reconnect. And so when I go home, I'm a little bit of a rally cry for a bunch of people who live 10 minutes apart from each other, but don't get together, except for when I make the phone call and say, hey, everybody, let's go to the bar and have a margarita. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to be in my home state. It was fun to see old friends. I had girlfriends who showed up, my best girlfriends from high school and elementary school. And that just always makes me so happy to still feel like I have a tribe of people in my hometown who love and support me. So all good things.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? I can say that after my divorce in my 40s, I went back and reconnected with a lot of people from my hometown. And those relationships, they do sustain, and they were really important to me and helped me to heal at that time. I think there are a lot of people in the midlife who, if they have moved away, they do go back to their hometowns. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think there is this beautiful thing. There is that saying, how lovely it is to have people who have seen how far you've come, can sift through all that stuff and can see how far you've come. And it was beautiful to sit in the bar with some old friends and have someone say to me, you've always been that way. You've always been this, or you've always been that. I reconnected with a woman that she and I worked together in my first job out of college at Barnes & Noble, and I was 22. And we haven't seen each other since. I worked there for a year. So we haven't seen each other for almost 30 years. And she showed up to see me speak. And I saw her before the event, and we were talking about this crazy, career I have now as a, quote unquote influencer that I never saw coming. And she was like, but you've always been funny. And I was like, oh, it's like those little things that sometimes they remind you of who you've always been. It's beautiful for me to hear my high school friends say, but you've always been that person. This is no surprise that you started this because you've always been her. And to feel like I haven't lost some of that child of me, that version of me that was more pie in the sky and more optimistic and less cynical about things and was wide-eyed optimist all the time, to feel like that she still lives within me. I think that's the cool part. And maybe that's why people go home again, because you get back to that thing. When I coach people and when I coach women in midlife and we talk about, losing yourself and feeling invisible, I always talk about, what do you love? And they're like, I don't even know what my passions are. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, now I want you to close your eyes and think about what your passions were when you were 10 and 15 and 20, because often the things that we loved back then, we still love. We just forgot we loved them, and we deposited them on the road that we've been traveling all these years, and we gave them up for children, and we gave them up for husbands and partners and moving across the country for somebody, and just leaving parts of ourselves along the side of the road because we couldn't carry it all in the next step. So it was like, okay, I'll just leave that behind. And so now I'm like, I feel I'm doing that myself. I'm going back down that road and I'm picking up all the pieces of me that I left behind for everybody else to be able to move forward. And I think going back home is both a literal and a figurative thing that we can do at this stage in our lives, and go back to those feelings of who was I then, and what did I love, and what was I passionate about, and why couldn't I still be passionate about those things?
Yeah, I got the goosebumps when you said going back along the road and picking those things up. I could visualize that. I could literally see that happening. Wow, that was a strong visual. So in your life back in that hometown as like a teenager or a young adult, is there something like a story or something that happened that you think is something you'd like to relive?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I have so many good memories about growing up where I was. There's just, for me, it's always been about this kind of Main Street hometown thing. I've always had that. And I think there's a beautiful connectedness that I feel in those environments when I feel like there's the guy at the whatever, this guy by name, and he knows your coffee drink, and this guy at the bar knows how you take your old fashioned, and just those things, that familiarity, those little tradition things. There was a tradition in my hometown where Santa Claus at Christmas time would get on a fire truck and they would drive around with the fire department on a fire truck, and they would have like little wooden reindeer attached to the fire truck. And they would trail Santa Claus around, and he'd ho and wave to everybody, and the fire department would throw out candies and all kinds of stuff. And it just always, every time my folks send me pictures of the videos of Santa coming around on the fire truck, it's like I'm a little kid again. And I think it's those things that I'm constantly looking for in my adult life, is those little moments of tradition, those little things that we do every year. And it's something that I was just talking to someone recently that I'm dating. And I said, I want to cultivate a relationship with someone where we have our things that are just ours. And it's not about, let's invite the whole family to this and let's invite everybody. No, like we protect these things. This is our place. When you say, hey, Friday at 5, call you up on the phone, I'll meet you at our place in a couple hours. Let's have dinner. I know exactly what that means. And I will meet you there. And that's just our place. And I just feel like I'm trying to cultivate more of those traditions again, for not only for my future relationship, but traditions for myself, like things I'm going to do more often and protect for myself.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So what is it that you wish people would consider more when they think about their identities? We've talked about identity.
I think it comes down to just the core heart of you. What are the things that really, so much of what I learned about creating a presence on social media is the quickest way to burn out is to put up a version of yourself that isn't true. Mm-hmm. And that's in life, that's in social media, that's in everything. If you're trying to be something for everybody, you're going to be nothing for anyone. Mm-hmm. And that feeling of just authenticity is so important. And I think we get a lot of messaging, especially as women, with magazines and things. And now everyone's got to have big butts and big lips. And before we all need to look like Kate Moss, and we ate only one chicken wing every day. And now it's, just stuff your bra. And it's all arbitrary. All of this beauty crap is friggin' arbitrary. Mm-hmm. And the authenticity piece, I think, is what has made me successful with what I do now. And I think the authenticity piece is what makes people stay with me and why they feel so connected to me. There are people that I follow that I love their content, but I don't feel connected to them. Yep. And I feel like the women that follow me feel a connection to me. And there's messages and little notes from them, and some of them send me things. And there's a big difference between aspiration and inspiration. And the authenticity piece and coming back to that is so important. When I started this journey, the first time I went viral, I used the F word in a reel, and I debated on whether or not to post it because I was still working a corporate job. And I thought, okay, it's got a version of the F word in it. What's everyone at my big fancy corporate job that's so controlling over their brand image going to think about one of their people going around saying the F word on the internet? And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. This is my community. Like, they're used to me swearing. Like, they know who I am. Like, that is who I am. I grew up in New Jersey. The F word is every part of speech in New Jersey. So I sent it out into the universe and it went viral. And every time I've done it since with some silly other something, and I use it goes friggin' viral because it's authentic to who I am. And it was a great reminder and a great universe wink to be like, hey, it's okay. You can be that. Like, you don't have to be palatable for everyone. And I think that's where we get stuck, is trying to be palatable for everyone when we really just need to be looking in the mirror and be really great with who we see there.
Yeah, because otherwise you become milquetoast.
I know I'm not for everyone. I know not everyone is going to see a girl with my hair or my looks or my whatever, my way I speak, whatever it is, and be like, yep, she's my people. Totally cool. Don't be here. I only want the people to be here who really want to be here, because then it allows me to show up in the most authentic way, and it keeps me from burning out trying to pretend to be someone that I'm not.
That's right. And I think that's a really important point especially for people in midlife, because this is when you're reevaluating your identity and you're making those decisions about who you want to step into and who you are and who you've been and who you want to be. And people do fall away. People that you may have known for years may fall away. That definitely happened to me in my life. And it's hard, but it feels better in the long run to know that the people who are with you are really there because they love you.
100%. Yeah, that's how I feel. I would rather have the community that I have than have a million people who are just there for whatever, some version of me that I feel like I have to put on in order to be able to show up. I've boohooed on the internet. I've done things on the internet I never expected I would do. I've been very vulnerable, cried on the internet, showed sadness, talked about my breakup, talked about insecurity and imposter syndrome, all the things, because we all go through all of that stuff. And I think there's this misconception that you have to have it all together to coach people. And I think it's just the opposite. I think the best coaches are the ones who've been through the shit, who are like, yep, girl, I know that feeling. No one wants to buy wrinkle cream from a 20-year-old. Show me you've been through some of the things I've been through and then tell me that you got through it. And I'm more inclined to take your advice.
Do you think that's the key to your success on the internet, online, growing your social media following was your authenticity?
100%. 100%. I feel like the more authentic I am, the more honest I am, the more vulnerable I am, the more people connect with me. My most vulnerable posts are the ones that got the most engagement from people because there was that feeling of me too. Like I feel seen. I connect with this. This is something that I feel too. My most watched content in so many ways, or my most demanded content, are my lives that I do every week. And if I don't do one, everyone's, oh man, we missed you last week. Like, how are you? Everything okay? I almost feel like I have to check in within a couple days after it because they're like, are you okay? But it's created this real connectedness, especially with a core group of real diehard community members where they feel like, hey, we're getting the most genuine version of Jen. And I'm just off the cuff doing my makeup on a Saturday, talking through things, telling stories, teaching things, like whatever happens, wherever it goes. Sometimes it's just all about products and other times it goes to philosophical life view kind of things. But yeah, I think the authenticity, and those are the messages I get over and over again. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Your authenticity, you are who you are. You inspire me because you are exactly who you are. And yeah, and when I hear that from friends who've known me for 30 years and they're like, yep, that's her. That's our girl. She's no different than when we knew her at 16, at 25. That's who she is. And that means I'm doing exactly what I set out to do.
Yeah, that's inspiring because so many of us are just afraid to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And it really, instead of being afraid of what you might lose, you should be excited about what you might gain.
Yeah. What's the best that can happen instead of what's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. So how can we use feedback from the outside world to help us connect to that authenticity?
I always feel a simple exercise I do with some of my clients when we talk about confidence is, what's the thing that you've always wanted to do that you've never done, or what you've always wanted to wear that you've never worn? That thought of, I hear so many women, I'm too old to wear X. If it's a bright lipstick, if it's a sequin, if it's a shorter skirt, if it's a whatever. And they're so afraid to try on, quote unquote, those things that they've been wanting to try on because they feel like, maybe my husband won't like it, or my friends will think it's a weird departure from what I'm usually doing, or the world doesn't think that I should be wearing these things or enjoying this stuff because I'm of a certain age. So I always talk to women about, okay, like, all right, so you've never worn red lipstick. You've always wanted to wear red lipstick. This is a simple example, but one that I think will illuminate it. I'm like, go out in the world with a red lipstick on and see what happens. And it's that feedback. So often what I say to women is that sometimes the feedback it's like the little watering of the seeds. If I walk out in the world in an outfit where I feel amazing and someone, you look amazing. And I'm like, thank you. And it just, not that we're trying to gauge our worth on someone else's opinion, but there's this bounce back that happens. I'm putting joy out in the universe, wearing something that I love that might be more fun than what other people would wear. And then I get a response from someone like, yeah, that gave me joy. And that makes me a little bit bolder. Or just going out and introducing yourself to people and getting connected to people. I have so many friendships that started with me randomly talking to someone and after an hour or two saying, I think we're supposed to be friends.
Yep.
And those little acts of courage, when they are received in ways that are positive and you get positive feedback as a result, that builds it encourages us to keep moving boldly. And if it is something as simple as a lipstick, great. Or if it's something bigger as introducing yourself, connecting, calling out a connection that you're feeling and having someone say, yes, I feel that too. That builds a little confidence muscle. Oh, people like connecting with me. Let me try that again. And boom, get another connection. And just all of that little feedback just keeps watering those seeds of courage and confidence as you walk through the world.
What a fantastic answer.
Thanks.
I do that too. I will meet people randomly in the grocery store or even in a parking lot, and then you'll end up exchanging phone numbers.
Yes. And it's,
You
I
never
think
know.
everyone's so cynical now. And I think I went on a trip last year for a week with a woman that I'd only ever met on the internet. And we just Facebook friend we were in a Facebook group, loved some of her comments, thought she was really funny, shot her a DM. Then we were DM friends. Then we moved to texting. Then we had a FaceTime once. And this last year, she really showed up for me in a beautiful way as I was going through my divorce, because she's a grief counselor. And she just was like, hey, I want to be there for you. And so she helped me with some of those things. And we planned a trip to London together for an entire week. And we met physically for the first time in Heathrow Airport. And we spent a week together. And we had the best time. And it's just, I think so many times people are afraid now, because the world is so cynical and we're so factioned in so many ways, that we're afraid to just kind of reach across and pull somebody in and be like, hey, I like you. I want to connect with you. Let's be friends, like we did when we were kids. You met someone on the street, want to play kickball? Like, it's no different. It's no different. It's the same energy to walk into those new connections with someone and be like, hey, you want to play with me? It's the same thing, just an adult version.
Beautiful. Wow. So true. So true. All right. I'd like to invite someone else into the conversation here for a moment.
Okay.
There's someone who I know is very close to you and is probably there, and you can maybe ask them to step into the room. Can we call in Miss Loretta Belladonna Donachocci for a moment?
You want to talk to my alter ego, do you?
Just for a moment.
Okay, sure. Let me get her for you. Hi, kiddo. How you doing?
My God, Loretta, thanks for coming.
Listen, this is amazing. This whole new influencer thing that I've been doing. Like, I'm just an Italian aunt from New Jersey. What do I know from anything? And now I'm on a podcast. I feel like Mel Robbins.
Well, you're a light. You're a light. And you keep it real and you really bring it. So I have a kind of a deep question for you, because I know that you like to give advice.
Oh, yes.
And we've been talking about relationships. We've been talking about identity. And so when somebody leaves your life because you are evolving and maybe you're stepping into your authenticity, and maybe a friendship that you had for a long time is now no longer aligned, or a marriage breaks up, or because I know that's happened in your friend's life, your friend Jen's life, and in my life. Yep. And relationships change. So for the youngsters out there, or for the oldsters out there, how do you handle this when this comes up for you?
Oh, listen, sometimes you have to sit down and make manicotti and just eat your heart out. Like, you have to sit down and you've got to process the emotions. I think that's the problem. Everybody wants to put it in a box and put it up on a shelf, but that does you no good. You've got to move through the feelings, because the problem is, if you don't move through, the feelings will come back. That box is still on the shelf. And maybe you forget about it for a little while, and then spring rolls around and you start bringing down your spring clothes, and boom, the box falls open and you're like, shit, now I got to deal with this thing again. So I think that's so important. Everyone gets into that place where they're like, okay, I just got to move forward. And there's this toxic positivity that happens where everyone feels like, oh, I got to put on a happy face and move on with my life. No, sometimes you got to sit in the knee deep in the what the fuck's just happened to me's and process the stuff and pause. Because it's the pausing and the stopping and the allowing of those feelings to move through you that will heal you. It's not ignoring them, because ignoring them just shows up in other ways. It shows up as anger toward people that you really do love. It shows up as impatience. It shows up as health problems. It shows up as anxiety. The processing of the feelings is so important in order to be able to heal yourself. So when you have a tough time, when you lose somebody in your life, whether it's their choice or your choice, it still hurts like hell. You don't want to have to go through that stuff, but it's very important to process it, because when you process, you also get the lessons out of it. And the lessons will protect you from some of those things happening again, or at least happening in the same way. You're going to have other lessons. You're not going to have it all figured out at 22 after your first heartbreak, but at least slowly, bit by bit, you'll learn more about yourself. Your filter gets a little bit finer, and you'll be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to accept that in my life anymore. Like, I know that does not work for me. So I think that's the thing. The processing is so important.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, it's a very complicated name. It's very Italian, but LBD is easy.
LBT is easy. Thank you so much. All right, let's bring Jen back.
All right. Nice to talk to you. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye, honey. Love you so much. Thanks for having me. Okay, bye-bye. 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 She's ready for you now. Okay, bye-bye.
I love that so much. I love that you came up with that. And the idea of who doesn't want to have an alter ego? I think about this all the time. And I've done this exercise with people, your alter ego exercise. Like, it's just so freeing to be able to do that.
It's so funny. She just came out of funny conversations. She came out of this whole mob wife aesthetic thing that came out on the internet where everyone was dressing like Carmela Soprano. And I was like hysterical because I'm like, I'm from New Jersey. Leopard print and black I was basically born in those things. And so it's like a nothing for me. And then at the same time, I had gone home to that conference and I was joking around with everyone about how as soon as I cross the New Jersey border, my accent comes back. And then I just started with this whole idea of I should create this mob wife, quote unquote, a character. And what should her name be? The community got together. We came up with a name for her and all that stuff. And then it started. But the funny part has been people in the comments being like, yeah, I'm not really into this. And I'm like, but here's the thing. I'm like, she's me. Like, she is me. She's not that far away from me. It's what I would be saying to people. But she just says it with a little bit more aggressively loving tone. She gets to say stuff that maybe I don't feel I'm able to say. And I just get to have her come out and be just very abrupt and to the point and in your face and ridiculously loving. And yeah, it's fun and hilarious. And it scratches a little bit of a comedy itch for me that I like to bring to the table as much as possible.
It's so great. It's so great. And really, I think everybody deep down has that little like split personality thing. You've got some other parts of your identity that you don't let come out. And that is a way of maybe letting that into your life if you let your alter ego shine.
Absolutely. Yeah, she doesn't have to be, completely off the mark. She can be just a little bit of a faceted version.
So true. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the beauty and fashion side of your business and your influencing. What is it that people in midlife should know about fashion and beauty that what are some myths, something that people should know that you think is important?
I think what people should know is that all those articles that tell you all the 10 things you shouldn't wear over 50 or do over 50 or put on your face over 50, they are all bullshit. That's it. Period. End of story. It's all bullshit. It's all arbitrary. All of it. All the beauty stuff is arbitrary. Like we talked about it earlier. What was pretty when we were growing up in the 80s, 90s, heroin chic and all of the stuff that we saw when we were younger, all these like waif thin people who look like bags of bones. Now it's voluptuous and curves and injected everything and it's all arbitrary. And then if you're following all of the trends, you lose yourself. And I've seen so many women do it with physical representations of just blowing up parts of their body. And then they don't even look like themselves anymore. And I'm not against it. I love a little Botox and I have definitely considered filler. And I'm not here to shame anyone for doing anything as long as you do it for yourself. And it's not to chase a trend, to become more attractive to someone else other than you. And I think this is the challenge that women have had for so long, is because so much of the messaging we get from a very young age is that we should care more about what other people think of us than we should care about how we think of us. And what are the kids at school going to say when you do this? And what are the boys going to think if you wear that? And what are the blah, blah? If you talk about sex or your sexual being, people are going to think you're a whore. And if you do this, the shaming of women is so crazy. If you stay home with your children, you have no drive. If you go back to work, you're a terrible mother. It's shame. Ring the bell, Game of Thrones, shame. It's constant. And so when I coach with women, all I talk about with confidence is I am just here to show you what I see in you and to remind you of who you are and to help you prioritize your voice over everybody else's. And I think that's where so many women get to a place where they feel lost. and they feel lost. They don't know who they are in the mirror. They don't know who they are in their life. They gave up so much for their children and their partners, and they moved for somebody, and they did all of these things, sacrifices, with best of intentions and with a whole lot of love behind it. But they also get to a place where they're like, shit, who am I now that these things don't need me the way that they used to? It's a big challenge. And I think a lot of women have that feeling around 40, 50, where we look in the mirror and we look at our life and we're like, is this it? Is this everything I thought I was going to have? Is this everything I wanted to cultivate for my life? And if it isn't, how do I go get it?
Yep.
So
because it's never too late.
No. So when it comes to beauty and fashion, I'm just encouraging women, listen, if you love sequins and you want to wear them to Target, wear them to Target. Because you know damn good and well, there's going to be someone who's going to stop you and be like, oh, I love that.
That's
and
right.
it just, so what? It's for you. It's makeup and clothing is an act of personal expression, period. End of story. It's no different than your personality. It's no different than how you love, how you speak to people, all of it. And why shouldn't it be an extension of your true self? And if your true self wants to dress in Hello Kitty, then do it.
Absolutely. I think of Betsy Johnson.
Yes.
I think of that.
Yes, absolutely. There's someone who is absolutely authentic in how she presents herself. Like she's creative from the inside out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that someone has to be in all colorful clothing. You can be minimalist and structured, and you can have, it doesn't have to be Technicolor, but whatever makes you feel like $1 million is really all that matters. So I don't chase trends anymore. And that's what I always tell people. If you see something that's trending and you love it, and you think that it fits with your own personal aesthetic, great, pull it in. But if you're just adopting it because it's the trend of the season, screw that. And when that trend goes out, if you still love it, who cares? You love it, period.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really important. You've been doing this thing where you've been shopping in your closet, in your own closet.
Yeah.
And we could probably all do that because we've all got so many things in there you haven't worn in so long. And so I found that very empowering. And I had this vision of you like inside my closet when I was going in there looking to see what you wear. I had this vision that Jen was going to pop out and say, why don't you put those jeans on? You haven't worn those in a while.
Right.
And they would look good with those shoes.
Totally. I think everyone gets it so many times. Are skinny jeans still in? Can I wear sparkly eyeshadow? Am I too old to do that? Do you love it? That's the first question I'll always ask. And people will be like, yeah, but. And I'm like, there is no but. Do you love it? Do you love skinny jeans on you? Do you feel good in skinny jeans? Don't listen to what the magazines tell you and some other influencer said is in or out. Do you love it? That's the only question. Do you love it? Who cares if your husband likes it? Do you love it? Because guess what? They'll get on board when you're strutting your stuff and you feel like $1 million. They'll be like, okay, maybe I like skinny jeans on her. It's do you love it? That's it. That's the only compass, period.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that too, in terms of like personal style and how you can look at certain people online and you can say they have an aesthetic, they have a style. You can see what they love from just looking at them. Yeah. And so do you think it's a good idea for people to take a look at what they love in order to find out what is my style? Is that part of an identity exploration that could be good for people?
Absolutely. It's part of what I do when I do some of my coaching sessions around style and finding your style vibe is, okay, let's go to find your 5 favorite pieces in your wardrobe that get the most action. And let's talk about those 5 pieces. Why do you love them so much? Are you attached to the shape of it? Is the color? Does it have a memory? Is it the fabric? What are the pieces that when you put them on, you feel like $1 million in? Or like other people are always like, that is fantastic on you. Why is it fantastic on you? And what is it that you love about it? Okay, now let's build outfits around those 5 pieces. And figuring out, sometimes the 5 pieces will show you very simply what you're into. I had a friend who did this exercise with me and I walked her through it. And she picked like a lot of very clean, minimalist kind of pieces, like very simple sheath dresses and a blazer. And I was like, okay, so I'm getting minimalist chic is the vibe I'm getting here. Like you like more just clean lines. It's not a lot of fuss, not a lot of different. And she's, yeah, she goes, and you know what? I never even thought about it. And I was like, okay, so now let's move you toward a couple retailers and let's look at these websites. Do these websites appeal to you? Do these things appeal? So when I talk to people about creating a style vibe, I'm like, I want you to create a Pinterest board and pull in different inspirations from architecture, from colors, from nature, from whatever. And so many times you'll start to see some themes come out. I could see it just when I talk to someone on a Zoom call, like what's their background like? Is it big and busy? Is it cluttered? Is it very clean? Like sometimes that can pertain and give you clues as to what their aesthetic is like personally in their fashion choices. And then once you get some of that language, then you can go out into store, go online and be like, okay, is this my style vibe? Is this what I'm about?
Yeah. And then that's a big help in exploring your identity and self-awareness, self-discovery, self-love, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then too, and some people are like, I have no idea. And I'm like, okay, if you have no idea, or if you've always wanted to try to, I hear that a lot. I've always worn black and just plain, and I would really like to inject some color and some print, but I don't know where to start. And I'm like, start at a thrift store.
Oh,
Start
yeah.
secondhand, buy some of those pieces secondhand, bring them into your wardrobe for a fraction of what you'd pay for them for retail, and see if you can incorporate them. And if you feel good bringing them in. That plaid jacket, you don't have to spend $200 on it. Find one at a thrift store, bring it in, see how it feels.
That's a
And
great idea.
It's a fun way to quote unquote try on different personalities in your style without breaking the bank and spending $300 on a blazer. And you're like, you know what? I tried this and I didn't feel it.
Yeah. What great advice. That's beautiful. All right. I want to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship because
Sure.
you did reinvent yourself, and a lot of us are in that same boat. And I want to talk a little bit about money, get real about that. So, for Gen X women who are starting over, and many of us leaving the safety of sort of stable job, traditional job, and branching out on our own, you're a coach, you're an influencer, you have things that you sell on your website. So, when someone is interested in getting involved in that type of a career, what do you think has moved the needle the most for you? Where do you make the most money? Where should people focus if they want to be able to survive and do what they love?
Yeah, I think so much of it is having your own sustainable things because so I do coaching services and those kind of things. And that definitely is a revenue stream for me that is just my own. It's not contingent on a particular platform, it's not contingent on a particular brand contract. That's my own thing that I can constantly lean toward, like a podcast, those kind of things that can generate revenue for you, but are evergreen and are yours and you own them. Had I done this journey differently, I might have done it differently. Instagram can be a fickle platform in that the algorithm's pushing your stuff one time and now we're all struggling to get reach and all of those things. And so, and also too, people lose it. And then all of a sudden you lose all your stuff. And so I think it's so important to have an email list and have other ways for people to find you, a website, and start promoting those things so that you get people to those places where you own the traffic and you own the accounts, so to speak, and you have a way to reach out to those people should the platform go down or go away.
Yeah.
So I think those pieces are important. Yeah, I think the brand partnerships have been great. Not everyone is going to have those things happen, but I think those have definitely been lucrative for me and helped keep me afloat in other ways. But I'm also very particular. I think not selling your soul is very important. And I think that's why when I do recommend things and I do partnerships, I get good results because people trust that I'm not giving them every damn thing I've ever been sent. And because I don't, if I don't love it, I don't talk about it. And I'll talk about things I'm not being paid to talk about. And that's the other thing. I think that's where people they have distrust for this quote unquote influencer community because they feel like every product we talk about we're just being paid for everything. And that's not the case, at least for me.
Sometimes they'll send you things. Someone will send you something and they're not paying you. You're trying it. And that's happened to me a lot of times. People will send me things and I'll try them and make a post about them, but I'm not getting paid.
80% of the partnerships that I get offered, I turn down because they're not authentic to me, because I don't love the product, because I don't, whatever it is. And I don't want to sell my soul. Sure, I could have made a lot more money, but I also don't want to turn into a catalog. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm actually here to impact and I have a bigger purpose here than just trying to sell clothes off my body.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to the authenticity piece, which is what has made you grow in your presence and in the first place. So you have to stay true to that vision. That's a great answer. When you start to gain a following, do you find that people will reach out to you and offer you these types of partnerships that are paid?
Yes. Yeah. I think over time they'll see that. And then, but a lot of it is pitching brands yourself
Okay.
and going to those brands that you're a super fan of. Some of it is talking about brands organically, and then they find you and tagging them. Some of my best contracts have been through brands that I've been talking about for years, who
Yeah.
finally are like, hey, let's partner together. We know you love the brand. And so there is that feeling. Just as much as we're trying to do that on our end, be authentic, the brands are trying to get true, authentic people to be voices for their brands,
Mhm.
and not just have somebody who's just going to take the contract for the money. So when I speak about products, I think it's always very organic to my community because they've heard me talk about these things for a while. And so when I finally get the brand to pay me to talk about it, they're like, good for you. We know you love
Exactly.
that brand. You've been
Yeah.
talking about them for years. So it's almost like they see it as a win for me, and they're buying the products because they know I love them and I wouldn't steer them wrong. It's a win for everybody.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting and I think good idea for people who are looking to grow as influencers or grow their social media to just go ahead and tag the brands that you love. You never know what
Absolutely.
might come of it.
Absolutely. And
That's a
you don't
great
need to
tip.
have hundreds of thousands of followers to get brands to pay attention and to want to work with you,
Yeah.
because once you get too big, then you don't have the same interaction and connection to your audience. And so
Right.
that piece becomes very important. Putting the social in social media is highly important if you want to make money doing this.
Yeah. Do you interact with people in your DM? I know you interact with me. So you do that
Every last,
regularly, interacting in your messages. Yeah, that's another great tip.
every
Wow.
last one of them, every
Okay.
comment, every DM, every single thing, unless I
And it's
miss it by
you.
accident. It's
Right.
me. It's not anybody else. I don't have an assistant. It's all me. I try to remember people. If I keep seeing the same handle pop up in my lives and their name isn't in their handle, I go to their profile. I'm like, who is this person? What's their name? And then I'll get on the next live and I try to remember these people because there's certain people that show up all the time
Mhm.
and their handles don't reflect their name. And I go and do the research, like, what's their name? And I call them out by name when they show up on the lives because they are my community. And I
Yeah.
want them to feel like, hey, I see that. I see that you're always here. I see that you keep showing up for me. It matters to me that you're here. It's important that you're here. And I think all of those things are, yeah, when they send me messages and then I get close to some of them. I've had coffee with some and dinner with some, and some of them have sent me things and created art for me and just little pictures on the walls of people, things that have been sent to me that have been created by people in my community that just wanted to do something for me, which is just, it blows me away. So yeah, there's a beautiful thing about this. We smash social media a lot for some of the awful, and I get it. But there are a lot of really beautiful connections to be made and some lovely community moments that happen that I would encourage people to embrace. Because
Mhm.
sure, there are going to be people who come online and talk about my ugly haircut and my whatever, but there's so many more instances of these little, I call them love notes, someone who sends me something out of the blue, been following you for a while and this and that, and you've encouraged me and inspired. And I'm like, damn, that's what I'm here to do. That's it.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
stuff. I don't care if you love the coat I wore. I want to know that you love the coat and it made you feel better about yourself. Like, I never wore that color and I bought it because I saw it on you and I wear it all the time. I get all these compliments. I feel so good about myself. That's the stuff. I was always more concerned. I worked in the beauty industry for over a decade. The thing that got me the most, it's never about the lipstick. It's about what the lipstick does to that person and how they feel about themselves. It's not about, oh, she looks good in red lipstick. It's no, she feels good in red lipstick. And
Oh,
that's the difference. It's that spirit makeover that happens when someone's outsides connect back to their insides. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes us to present outside to start to feel better on the inside. That idea of, girl, get yourself up, put on a cute outfit, do your hair, put on some makeup, get out there. It's that feeling of, yeah, sometimes you have to fake it externally to have the internal start to line up again.
yeah. So true. When you're tempted to just put on that around the house outfit,
Yeah.
and you should just go reach for the outfit that you really love, that you really feel like $1,000,000 in, and just go to the grocery store. Go down to the
Yeah.
ShopRite
Yeah. I think
and come home.
There's nothing more of a conversation starter than wearing something that is unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. Such beautiful advice.
Oh,
Oh, so because this is the Blessings podcast, I have to ask you about your biggest lessons and blessings in your life. So let's start with the lessons. What is one or a couple of the biggest lessons you've learned in life?
sure. I think relationships are two people, and the success and the failure of a relationship is built on the efforts of both people. And oftentimes when we walk out of failed relationships of any sort, there's a lot of that self-criticism, self-doubt, reflection that happens. And I think it's important that we recognize that, yeah, but there was someone else involved in this too. And you can't save a relationship all by yourself. I heard something recently I thought was so powerful. So many people are in relationships asking the other person to be medicine for wounds they didn't inflict. And I think that just really hit me as, isn't that the truth? Sometimes we're trying to be the medicine, and sometimes we're asking someone else to be the medicine. And we really have to get to a place of healing within ourselves to be able to show up to a relationship in the best way possible. And asking someone else to pay the price for things that other people have done to us is unfair to them. But it's also unfair for them to ask that of us as well. So keeping that in mind, that two people are involved here and one person can't be the only thing trying to save it. I think another lesson is just not everyone's going to like you. And as someone who has always felt pretty likable, I've walked through the world feeling like I easily connect with people, and people they feel that way about me. I feel like I've always gotten feedback of being fairly likable. But there's going to be a lot of those moments that come up in your life where someone doesn't like you, or someone rejects you, or someone breaks up with you, leaves you, abandons you. You're not going to be for everybody. And you've got to be okay with that because they're not your people. And so allowing them to walk out is actually going to be a blessing and a lesson at the same time. And I think that's a blessing. Yeah. I mean, I think about that a year ago when my marriage came to an end. We'd been together for 13 years, and I felt very blindsided by the whole event and how it happened and how it occurred. And a year out from it, I look at it as such a blessing that this person couldn't be there for me, because it's shown me how much of myself I had given up trying to fold myself up into this little palatable package for that person, instead of being this big open package that I've always been. And it was a blessing in disguise that this person did to me what I was too loyal to do to them. Mm-hmm. So I was angry for the first couple months and scream cried into my bed for a very long time, angry as hell. And now I look at it as, thank God this happened to me, because I was living an inauthentic version of myself in my day-to-day. And I am keenly aware of the fact that the things that are important to me now in relationship, I'm not going to sacrifice ever again. And I'm so cool with me that it's okay if I don't wind up with someone. But I know whoever gets me this time around is getting Gen 5.0, and they're going to be real happy with this new version. I think those lessons are important, just to remind yourself that you're not responsible for everybody else's happiness. You're really only responsible for your own.
Yes. Yes. And what about your blessings? What are you most grateful for?
My tribe of friends. I have the most incredible people in my life, and deep rooted friendships, and my parents too, that I've just been very consciously cultivating and nurturing over the years. I think it's part of a lesson too. It's a lesson of, just because you think you find your person, don't neglect those friendships because you found your partner. I think that's the one thing I have done right in my life, is that I've always made sure to nurture and water those friendships, and do the girls' trips and do the weekend with your friends. And even when you get married and find a partner and all of those things, maintaining those friendships are so important, because I've learned after a couple failed marriages and a lot of, heartache, that those will be your lifeboats when you feel like everything's sinking. And I have these beautiful, deeply connected women in my life, men too, that have held up a mirror and reminded me of who I am in those moments where I forget. And I look at my blessings, those are the first things that I think of. It's saved me. It saved me from myself in moments of, girl, you shouldn't be doing that. I have those friends, they're not yes women. They'll call me out on my shit. And they'll do it from a place where I receive it because I know how deeply they love me. So I never take it like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that to me. It's this person loves me and knows me better than most people know me and can say really direct shit to me.
Yeah.
That most people would be afraid to say to another human. And I receive it in the way it's intended because I know they love me so deeply. So those things are so important.
They are.
Yeah.
We call that an authenticity partner.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah. And I think just I think the other blessing for me, I think, is just getting to a place of deeply rooted self-love, flaws and all. I like to take myself on vacation. I take myself out on dates. I go to places by myself, dinners by myself, movies by myself. Getting really cool with you is so important. And it takes the pressure off of relationships when you feel really great about yourself, because you're not trying to be defined by someone else and how they see you. And you're not trying to find fulfillment in someone else and how they love you. It's, hey, I got a cool life. I've curated this really great existence without this person. And so if they go, I won't feel like my whole life went with them. And so I'm in that place now at this stage in my life where I really like the life I've built for myself. And I really like who I've become in the process. And I know that if I risk my heart and I put myself out there and it all goes to shit, that I'll live through it.
Yeah.
I've done it before. So it keeps me in a place of staying wide open and still risking my heart, even though I've had it stomped on a handful of times. So I think that's been a blessing too, getting to that place of just being really great with yourself and liking your own company.
Loving yourself enough that you can risk your own heart and still know that you'll be okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. What other choice is there? I saw a quote that said, there's no version of love that doesn't come without the risk of a broken heart. And it's true. The truth. Oftentimes people come into, when you have heartbreaks like I've had, you come to the table and you're like, this is all the things I want. This really long laundry list of qualities. Here's my perfect manifested person. And then we go, but I'm only willing to give this much. They're going to have to prove themselves in order to get the rest of me. And for me, I'm constantly talking openly about my single life and saying to them, I have no other way to show up but to be completely open and vulnerable. And I'm even more honest now about what I'm looking for than I was ever before. I'm talking about it in the first date. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. And if that doesn't scare you off, great, let's go to date 2. But if it scares you off, great, I can get you out of the mix quickly.
Yeah.
And that piece has become really vital in my process in meeting people, because I keep thinking, I don't want to go in guarded, because again, then I'm not authentic. And if I'm not authentic, then I feel like I keep showing up as some version of me that isn't my true me. So here's me. I'm deeply loving. I'm really giving. I'll say how I feel fast. And if that scares you off, you're probably not the right person. And you probably have some work to do on yourself that you're unaware of, because if love makes you scared, then maybe you should just figure out why that is. So it helps to weed out some of the folks that might not be aligned with how your heart works.
That's right. You've given us an entire book's worth of knowledge here.
Oh, I don't know about
in an hour. I really appreciate everything you've shared and just being so open and beautiful, and your authenticity really shines through. And I hope everyone listening can see how important that is and what it does and the energy it creates, because it is really powerful. It like magnifies everything. It's beautiful. Thanks so thank you for being here today, Jen. I really am grateful for this conversation, and I hope that you are very successful. Let's just tell everybody where they can find you if they want to connect with you.
Sure. On social media, I am at Making Up for Glossed Time, GLOSED, Glossed Time. And my website is glossedworld.com.
Yeah. And you should definitely connect with Jen because she's awesome.
Please connect, say hello, send me a DM, all the things.
Thank you so much. And again, I just really appreciate everything you've shared and your presence here. And I'm very grateful to have connected.
I'm grateful to have been here. Thanks for the invite.